Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin miners and where they could potentially be going, and also the upcoming Bitcoin conference that is supposedly Trump and some people from the Biden administration are going to be there. So that's coming up next week. With that being said, let's get it. Okay, so let's talk about the Bitcoin conference. Okay, so this was just posted recently, as you guys can see. We go down here to the bottom of the blog. You guys can see it is supposed to be slated for the 25th of July. So we have not only the actual trading potentially. Again, it's always potentially until it actually happens, right? So we don't know if they're actually going to be trading next week, but that's what we have heard so far, that the spot Ether ETFs likely are going to be trading next week. So regardless of that, the Bitcoin conference is supposed to kick off on the 25th, which again is next Thursday. So we have about a week until then. I'm just going to read a little bit of this to you guys. I don't want to go over this too deep, but you guys can read into this into your own time. So it says the Bitcoin conference is usually a wild time, with President Trump still headlining despite being just days removed from a you-know-what on his life. Conference organizers are ensuring they are ready for what's expected to be a near-record crowd, and that would not surprise me because, again, flocks of people always come to Trump events of any kind. We've seen it many, 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 many times since the start of the year. It wouldn't be a shock. So it goes on to say it's already standard procedure that the Secret Service details up tremendously. There's going to be a lot of planning around the security of the event, which makes sense. That's probably going to be a heavily populated event. Speaks of a drop in attendance during the bear market, which makes sense. I mean, not as many people are hyped when Bitcoin's down 80%. That's understandable. So attendance is easily expected to top last year's attendance of about 12,000 and could even rival 2022's tally of more than 25,000 attendees. So you're talking a 2x the number of people that could be there. So I want to go down a little bit further into this read here and go over this. So it says other conference speakers, including the usual suspects and a number of politicians, which could include Senators Bill Hagerty. So it looks like you got some Republicans and some Democrats. So you have Marsha Blackburn and Ro Khanna hosting, or I guess who recently hosted a crypto roundtable with industry leaders and Biden administration officials. Again, I don't know if Biden's going to be there, but I'm pretty confident Trump's going to be there, but we'll just have to wait and see. But there is going to be a lot of people there. Again, the point of all this is that there will be a lot of people, and it would be my guess that there would be a lot of people from Congress that are going to be there because they want to know more about it. I see this as being an extremely bullish event, especially for Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin and anything Bitcoin related, like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Litecoin, and potentially even it could be a boon for the entire space. Okay, altcoins could moonshot as a result too. Again, the spot Ether ETFs supposedly are supposed to be trading next week. And again, if those of you that actually know how Ethereum works, a lot of these altcoins on the Ethereum network are listed as ERC20 tokens, which means their contracts are on the Ethereum blockchain. So a lot of these are actually Ethereum-based altcoin projects, okay? So if Ethereum's going up, likely a lot of these altcoin-related projects or altcoin-related assets like the Grayscale trusts or things like Coney and MSTY, stuff like that, are likely going to go up in value. That's, in my opinion, most likely going to happen. Again, the Bitcoin conference getting a lot of attention from members of Congress and former presidents is extremely bullish, in my opinion. It's becoming a presidential debate topic, which, in alignment with the Fed rate cuts towards the end of the year, more confirmation for the markets as to who will become president at the end of the year, which my money is still on Trump. I would be willing to bet 5 figures that Trump is going to get elected, not Biden, okay, or not some substitute for the Democrats. That's just my opinion. But the bottom line for crypto investors is this it's extremely bullish. We know based on history that Biden's been very anti-crypto and Trump is very pro-crypto. He even came out and said not verbatim that more or less if you vote for me, then I will, or if you're bullish on Bitcoin, if you like Bitcoin, then vote for me, that kind of thing. That's what Trump said, and there's no reason to believe he's lying about that. So let's go ahead and get into the miners here. So Mara, we have this huge weekly green candle here. Again, I'm assuming these miners blasted off because of Bitcoin's technicals and the fact that we finally got news from the SEC that they're trying to close up the finishing touches on these spot ETH or ETF products before they actually launch next week. So, I mean, a lot of these miners are looking a little expensive right now. If you guys are looking to get in on the dip, again, not financial advice, but if I was going to do this, I'd either wait for a pullback or buy some cash secured puts. Just basically at lower prices, maybe with like a 20 to a 30 delta. Again, the miners are extremely volatile. These are not normal levels of volatility. They're very extreme compared to normal stocks. So that's how I'd go about it. But so a couple things I wanted to point out on Mara that I noticed before pulling this video up is you can see here that we have a MACD golden cross. Okay, so this is on the weekly time frame, and it will confirm this week in 2 days. So long as we don't get some kind of major sell-off, then I would say it's confirmed. We already confirmed an RSI golden cross back here, which, as you guys know, is usually pretty accurate in predicting bottoms. Well, the more accurate prediction for bottoms would actually be when the RSI is oversold, but that's a different story entirely. So, yeah, basically the MACD got the golden cross. The thing I want to point out here is that the last time we had this situation happen where it got a golden cross on the MACD was back here in November of last year. And here's what we saw happen, okay? So we got the golden cross on the MACD, and it blasted off to the moon, almost 200%, went from $10 or basically $11 all the way up to $31. But more importantly, I want to point this out. So we were chopping sideways into this lower trend line in a support zone. And then when we blasted off to the top of the wedge on the upper trend line, okay? So as we were getting ready to get this golden cross, what happened? So we chopped sideways in a support zone right up until this bottom trend line at the bottom of the wedge pattern. Then we got the golden cross, and what could theoretically happen here? We take off for the top of the wedge. Now, if I can't say for certain that it's going to play out exactly this way, but you guys can see that from the golden cross, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of bullishness. So if we have, let's say we get to the top of the wedge in maybe 5 weeks, so 35 days, you guys can see if history is to repeat exactly that Mara, the biggest Bitcoin miner, Mara would actually be up nearly 100%. And it would be at $44 a share. Now, again, this is just, these are confluences. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to play out that way. That's why I say, because of the fact that Mara's already taken off so much, we sold early. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. We have to accept the fact that we're not going to make as much money on this one this time around. Not a big deal. There is always going to be dip buying opportunities. Then likely just waiting for a pullback and or getting some cash secured puts, expecting them to get filled at lower prices would, in my opinion, be your best bet. So if this confirms bullish above this line here, likely this line is going to hold as support. So I'll probably actually kind of pull this out a little bit. So roughly about that $21 range. It might get a wick maybe down to support at 20. So 20 to 21, somewhere in there. Resistance is $29.50 to $33, and again, the top of that wedge pattern is going to be about $44. So if we were just to get to the top of this resistance, you can already see it's a massive move, so nearly 30%. If we get a pullback into this line before getting a pop to the upside, it then becomes 54% move. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll actually go over the options premiums here with you, guys, on a couple of these miners in a minute. So again, we have a golden cross here on the RSI on CleanSpark, maybe about to get a golden cross on the MACD if we do get one. As you guys can see, last time the EMAs touched here, we blasted off. Okay, we got the golden cross back here when CLSK was a mere $4 a share and it went all the way up to $25. That's a 6x on your money. So these MACD golden crosses, at least on the miners, do matter a great deal. So we're stuck in between this channel. I would say, again, probably this line down here, 15 to probably this blue EMA, so 15 to 17, somewhere there is likely going to be a good buying opportunity. Once again, dip buying or maybe throwing on some cash secured puts. If this is a bull flag, which at this point is, I would say it's probably not a bull flag, because this channel has been going sideways for like 5 months, but the target would be all the way up here at resistance at 36 bucks. So the closer resistance, $21.50 to about $24, and then the wick high is roughly just shy of $25 up there. So from the current price, let's say to the wick high, 29%, all the way up to that bull flag target, 92%. However, if it comes back down to this trend line at some point, let's just say maybe around $16, because it seems to like to go around that level a lot for some reason within this channel. I don't know why. So 45%, and then roughly about 125% respectively on CLSK. So Riot, once again, a lot of confluence going on between the miners. So we have a MACD golden cross on Riot. We have this big fat green candle. I've been telling you guys forever that likely this level down here at $9 was going to be the base. That appears to be what happened. RSI golden cross, you know the drill. So prices above the EMAs, if we get a confirmation on the weekly, in my opinion, that's extremely bullish, and we're probably going to head higher from that point. Again, we do have a confirmation on the daily, along with a triple golden cross going on here on the EMAs, that we're already heading in that direction. The next level would be to look at the weekly. So I will still say, until we get the confirmation above the EMAs, the support is going to be roughly between 770 to 1020. Resistance you're looking at up here is $18.50 to $21. If we get a move from here to these levels, you'd be looking at 50% and then 68% respectively. HUD8, this thing has already blasted off for the moon. You can see the golden cross back here, and then it took off. Because we already have beyond confirmation at this point in the weekly that this thing is indeed bullish, because it had a breakout way back here, at basically right along the top of this wedge here. I would say probably the EMAs is going to be your best bet on the weekly time frame. So maybe somewhere between 12 to 1450. I guess if you're trying to be generous here and thinking this is not going to go that much lower, maybe 1730, the bottom of this resistance. But again, until we get to a candle close above this previous candle high here, which is roughly about $20.80, you can see we already got a wick rejection off of it. Until we get a close above that, I would say this is probably still going to stay as resistance. But if we do get a close above it, then we could be heading to the next level. If that happens, we'll talk about it. Just to give you guys the numbers here, it's about $28.30 to $33. That's a possibility. I mean, the highs for HUD8 in the last cycle was $80, if I'm not mistaken. So let me zoom out real quick so we can see that. Yeah, so it was $82 in the last cycle. So even though HUD8 has gone up substantially, again, that's still roughly about a 4x the previous all-time high, and that does not include if the Bitcoin miners go to new all-time highs. You know, like $100, $150, $200, that could happen. So at this point, I'd either be looking for a pullback in price or some kind of cash secured put, same as the other ones. CIFR, I would not touch this at all. I would not even think about getting a cash secured put on this thing I wouldn't even think about getting a cash secured put on this thing until it got to at least 550. I would not buy this until it got back into the zone. I'm actually just going to change this to support now because it looks so incredibly bullish that likely it probably will come back and retest. This thing likely will get a confirmation bullish above this resistance. I'm willing to go on a limb here and say that's likely going to happen. If we look on the daily time frame, you guys can see we already got confirmations above the previous resistance and above all these candle tops here. So on the daily, we're good. We just need a couple more days to confirm on the weekly. So again, that support is going to be $5 to about $5.50, and the ascending triangle pattern target here, you can see it, the kind of triangle pattern The target for that's going to be all the way up here at $9. That's just shy of previous resistance, which is at $9.50 to about $10. I mean, this thing looks like it wants to rip higher, but again, I would not be buying all the way up here because, you know, if I decide to ape in, let's say I go 100% in right here and it pulls back, I mean, that's a pretty nasty drop. So I would not be wanting to get dumped on like that. That's just my opinion. But yeah, that's CIFR as of right now. And CIFR and BTBT, as you guys can see, we got the golden crosses on the EMA and the MACD. And so that also probably helps explain why the technicals are so bullish. So we got the breakout of the wedge pattern again. I would be looking for about 290 to 3.25 on support here on BTBT. I wouldn't be buying all the way up here. So resistance is 420 to 485, 490. Swing high up here at 530. Again, if you guys want to buy at these levels, you can. I'm not saying anything one way or another. I'm just saying that the risk here is just to get back to the EMAs. It's a pretty substantial drop. So plus, you know, you had plenty of weeks to buy down here and stuff like that. So there's no point in my opinion, in trying to FOMO in. So 64% move all the way up to resistance and then 80% respectively on BTBT. So BITF, this one also you have the crosses on the indicators, the golden crosses, and then it is sitting at resistance currently. So this one's not super ramping, like you get that straight up kind of candle momentum like you see with this one here. You can see this one is basically just like a straight shot up. Okay. So we're not getting anything like that yet on BITF. So in my opinion, this could still hold as resistance. Again, that resistance is $3 to $3.60. Support as of right now is going to be roughly about $2 to $2.40. To give you the risk analysis here, there could be a pullback of about 33%. I don't think it goes below the support as long as it's above the EMAs. I think the EMAs and support will hold nicely. So from, let's just say the bottom of support, 51% move, and then 81% and roughly about 97% respectively on BITF. So the miners in general do look very bullish. I want to go over with you guys some of the premiums here. So we do have Mara. You guys are about to see it in a minute. So, I mean, it was at $27, but unfortunately, because the market's dumped, the miners kind of also dumped too. So you can see we're just still barely in profit. We were up much more significantly earlier on, but kind of just is what it is. I don't think it really matters because we're really just doing this for the premiums and potentially some extra profit. It's basically a swing trade in combination with the options. Is pretty much how we're treating this. So if I were to go over the 9-day time frame here, and again, if you wanted to calculate this income on a monthly basis, you would basically, if it's 9 or 10 days, you basically times that by 3, whatever the premium is going to be, times the number of contracts. Or if you're doing it on a weekly basis, whatever the number of contracts is times the amount of premium times the weeks. So in this case, it would be 4 weeks. So if I were to look at, well, let's not go with this one. I suppose you could go closer to at the money if you're looking for more premium. So let's do this one. So we'll say $28, $84. Okay, that's a 32 delta. It's relatively safe. I think Mara could easily at this point, based on looking at the charts, hit $28. So I basically just type in 3 here. So if this was to remain consistent over 3 9-day periods, which again is about a month, that would equal roughly about $250 in basically premiums from the covered calls. So on the put side, again, some of these miners you might want to consider doing a put because of the fact that they're so overextended from support and they look like they are due for a pullback. Again, the premiums here are pretty juicy. If I wanted to be a little more conservative, I'd say maybe a 27 delta, 23.5 Mara. Again, $70 times 3 contracts would be $210, as you guys can see, or $205. It would still be pretty good. So I'll use HUD8 as another example. So HUD8, this one has actually ramped off so hard to the upside that I probably would not be doing a covered call, because I would be worried if I did that it was just going to pull back anyways, because again, the move up has been so incredibly aggressive. But just to show you the premiums from the current prices, I mean, even with a relatively safe delta of, let's say, 26 delta, $51 in premiums times 3 contracts, because again, we're doing 9-day period times 3, which is roughly about a month, would be $150 a month. But personally, I wouldn't be doing covered calls with it moving up that much. I would be looking for a cash secured put in this case. Because it has moved up so aggressively, what I would probably do is I'd look at the chart like this, and I would say, okay, where do I think this thing is likely to retest? Where do I want to start picking up shares at? Well, if I'm looking to pick up shares in the buy, the first area I would want to look at buying would be probably the bottom of this resistance. So somewhere around that $17 to $18 range is what I'd be looking at. So we'll take a look at 18, or actually $17.50. So 20 delta, that's relatively safe. Again, the extra 10 delta would probably be for the increased volatility on the miners. That's just kind of how we see it, because it's a little bit more volatile than usual. So $41 in premiums times 3 contracts, again, that would still come out to $120 a month, and you get to buy the dip and get paid to buy the dip if you actually get filled on the cash secured put. So anyways, this is our update on the Bitcoin miners. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.